Welcome, you are live for another edition of the Fantasy Football Show with Smitty. Where's my mic? Let's restart that. Welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Football Show with Smitty. I've got my Instagram people in the corner here peeping like the peeping peepers they are. And Marco's first, as usual. We're going to do a couple things during this show. We're going to do top 15 running back rankings. I'm going to give you mine. We're not going to do them together. This isn't a mock draft. This is my top 15 running backs. You can see my top 5 right on the screen right now. What's up, Danny? And then we're going to talk about a Superflex QB, 2 QB league that I'm doing right now, a draft. And I'm going to show you my team. I showed you a little bit last time that I potentially might trade up and get another pick, and I was looking to, I grabbed both Lamar, who I caution people about drafting, but in a 2 QB league, completely different. It's a chance I'm willing to take in a 2 QB league, although I'm trying to trade him for Mahomes. I'm trying to get rid of like a later pick and swap Lamar and Mahomes in hopes that Mahomes owner felt like maybe grabbing Lamar, it wasn't too sure which one to take, and I can maybe convince them to swap Lamar out. But if not, I've got Lamar. I'll go over that team. I'll show you what I did in a 2 QB Superflex league. And then we'll talk a little bit about news and notes and things going on around the league. Time for the intro.
Top 5 running back. You're watching the Fantasy Football Show.
What up, everybody? It is time to talk fantasy football with you and really get into the news, what's going on around the league, what's going on with this new potential rules that might actually impact a lot of us in fantasy football, rule changes that the NFL is considering. They're talking about maybe going to 18 weeks instead of 17, potentially implementing 2 bye weeks, which is crazy, and that's going to impact things to an extreme degree. 2 bye weeks, 18 weeks of football, 3 preseason games, and a whole lot of other stuff. And this all these agreements and talks have delayed the franchise tag, which may impact Winston, may impact Dak Prescott. So we have a lot to talk about. There's so much going on in the news world right now. We can talk about Winston. I've addressed this situation a ton already. I know you guys might be tired of hearing me talk about Winston and talk about whether or not you should be trusting both wide receivers in 2020, Godwin and Evans, to the tune of a top 5 wide receiver. I myself am a little bit unsure where to rank both of these guys because I feel like it's inevitable that one of them is going to drop off within the next 1 or 2 years if Winston doesn't remain the cemented-in starter in Tampa Bay for the future. And given there's talk about maybe franchise tagging him, not believing in him enough yet to sign him long-term, don't give me that crap that Winston's there to stay, that both of these guys are going to continue to produce elite production at the wide receiver position, because I almost guarantee you one of them will fall out of the top 10 within at least a year to a year and a half. What's up, Jeremy? What's up, Gaming? What's up, Danny Silva? Can you guys give your thoughts on why your rankings Barkley over McCaffrey? I will. I'm going to go over each one of these, and the God's honest truth is this is neck and neck between these 2 running backs. McCaffrey and Barkley are 2 of the best. Actually, the top. These 2 running backs are as good as any top 2 running backs, I think, over the last decade. What's up, Silver? What's up, Mark? So I'm a big advocate of going and getting 2 of these guys on one team in one league. How do you do that? It's hard to do it with trading, but you can do it. You can get rid of, if you're given the 1 or 2 pick right out of the gate, then you already have one of them. You can't really trade up into the 1 and 2 overall if you're given the 7 or 10 pick overall out of the hat. If you're given the 1 or 2 pick, then you already have one of them. It is not impossible to acquire that pick. At least get Elliott. You could get Elliott and Barkley or Elliott McCaffrey, but I really prefer Barkley and McCaffrey by trading up. In auction, you can absolutely do it, and you can do it every single time. In auction, I'm taking Barkley and McCaffrey together on at least 4 or 5 teams of my 14 or 15 leagues that I do, because I'll have like 7 auctions, I think, out of all those. And 3 or 4 of them, I'm taking Barkley and McCaffrey, or Barkley and Elliott, or Elliott and McCaffrey, whatever combination of those 3. But I freaking love it in 2020. Give it to me all day long. That's called the double, the two-headed monster, and I'm all over it. Now, the question is, why do I have Barkley ahead of McCaffrey? I've been telling you guys, if you've been following me at all for the last few weeks on this topic, of course, you're following me, but I mean, if you've been watching my content, haven't taken a break, haven't been living under a rock the last couple weeks in terms of my content, you know that I've been inching closer and closer toward putting Barkley ahead of McCaffrey. I finally did it. It's very close for me. I honestly don't know how people don't, like, when you get a question like the one in the chat here, can you give me your thoughts on why you're ranking Barkley over McCaffrey? McCaffrey is very deserving of it. I would not fault anybody for having McCaffrey over Barkley. I had it that way last month. But I think Barkley's going to come back on a tear. I think Barkley's going to remind everybody that, yes, situation's great. McCaffrey's fantastic. He's one of the most powerful weapons in fantasy football. But Barkley is the most talented running back, the most talented, physically gifted running back in the entire league. And he hasn't had the best situation like McCaffrey has. And McCaffrey's going to go through a little bit of uncertainty at the QB position. What's going to go on there offensively, it's tough to say. What's up, Tony? Tony dropping the super. Thank you, Tony. And I'll get to your question next. I think it's really tough. It's a tough argument to make that McCaffrey's not your number one based on the production that he's delivered now 2 years in a row. But Barkley, I think, has the offensive support in 2020. Barkley, I think Danny Dimes takes a step forward. I think they draft a wide receiver. I think Evan Ingram, whether he's hurt or he's banged up a lot, I think he takes a step forward, at least in the games that he plays. And then Slayton, and then put in another wide receiver. This offense is going to be really, really underrated. I think Danny Dimes has a top 6 to 10 QB season in 2020, and that will open up the run. That will give Barkley more room to run. That will get Barkley more involved in the passing game. I just believe that Barkley's in for a 15-plus TD season in 2020, and I think he has a massive amount of total yards. I love McCaffrey. I'm touting the two-headed monster like crazy. Every post you see on me, every video you see on me lately, I mention it. I can't help it. The two-headed monster, go after Barkley and McCaffrey together. So it's not that I have Barkley that much higher than McCaffrey. They're almost neck and neck. I just feel like they've overworked McCaffrey enough that it adds a little bit of concern of, will he eventually hit some kind of wall? Not that I'm number 2 overall. Obviously, I'm respecting the guy. I just feel like Barkley's ready to bounce back and bounce back to the tune of 15 to, 17, 18. Get a 20 TD season in 2020. 20 TDs in 2020. That has a nice ring to it, does it not? Tony, Smitty just wanted to say hello. Also, doesn't the possibility of Breeze retiring concern you for the value of Kamara? And I concur that Barkley is the true number 1 in 2020. Thank you, Tony. And again, I loved McCaffrey in 2022, so I don't want people to take this out of context and say, oh, Smitty's predicting bad. No, I'm not. I'm just saying there's a dynamic here at play in terms of workload that makes me a little bit concerned enough to bump him to 2 in terms of McCaffrey's workload. And I just feel like Barkley's going to cut. I think Barkley's just going to explode out of the gate. I just can't wait. I think the offensive support he's going to get, the unexpected offensive support, because a lot of people think the Giants aren't going to do anything. I think Danny Dimes is going to come out looking like a very, very good quarterback. And I think I think people are going to get on the hype train, much like in week 10, 11, people were like, oh, how could you have Barkley number 2, Smitty? Because I had Barkley number 2 in week 10, 11, 12 for my dynasty rankings, for my 2020 rankings back in 2019. And people were upset that I have Barkley number 2, claiming he was struggling all year. Now everyone and their mother has Barkley number 2, and no one's saying shit about the fact that they didn't have him in their top 2 earlier and had a problem with me having him in my top 5 overall heading into 2020. Now everybody's back on that bandwagon, but come on. Number 1, number 2, you can make an argument for both. So stick to your guns. Whoever you have ranked number 1, you're not making a mistake. They're both elite, and go get both of them in auction drafts. As for the Kamara question, a little bit of concern, but I mean, I think they are going to address the backup QB position here in 2020. Maybe they retain Bridgewater. Maybe Bridgewater doesn't get the kind of money he's expecting. Who knows? There's rumors that Bridgewater could be signed pretty quickly, and there's rumors that I don't even know what the news is looking like this morning. But Bridgewater, I don't know that Bridgewater is going to be as good as people expect him to be. He's a very good fit. He meshed well in that Saints offense. I think he's a perfect fit. But I don't even know if he'd be the long-term answer in New Orleans. So I think that the long-term answer is not probably on the roster yet. I don't think Taysom Hill's the long-term answer. I don't understand how Taysom Hill is everybody's pick for being a franchise quarterback, or he was earlier on for being the Saints franchise quarterback, when he has never, ever thrown an NFL touchdown pass. Oh my God, that's the weirdest stat ever. The guy everyone's predicting to potentially at one point take over the Saints offense has never thrown a touchdown pass. Thoughts on Derrick Henry? I like Henry at the right value. My line in the sand for Henry, where I draft him, is definitely, what's up, J-Rod? Just so you guys know, I'm live on youtube.com/the fantasy football show. I'll try and answer the questions over here. Probably Jefferson for right now, East. But good question. What's up, official? Henry, to me, is a 7 to 8 overall pick. If I've got to take him at 5, I'm not taking him. Somebody else is going to take him for me before I have to worry about it. I'm not saying I don't like... this volume up really loud. Is that volume okay? You got a lot of reverb, or is that good? Is that better? Kamara, to me, to answer the first question, Tony, I think they addressed the QB position. I think Kamara survives. I think Kamara has a bounce back year. I think Kamara has over 80 to 85 to 90 receptions in 2020. I think Kamara has over 12 TDs total in 2020. And I think walking into 2021, we will have the conversation about where his value could bounce around at, given the QB position. And they may not address it fully in 2020. Maybe they go after a QB in the 2021 draft. Maybe they trade for one mid-season. Maybe they figure something else out. But I don't think the future franchise QB for the Saints is on the roster currently. I just don't. D. Hopkins or Derrick Henry, I take D. Hopkins, big dog. That's just me. I could understand anybody in non-PPR taking D. Henry. And I traded for D. Henry in a dynasty league. It didn't sit very well with me, but I had to get out of another player value that I didn't like, and it was the only option I had at the time. And I hope to turn Henry into something else because it's dynasty, and I do have my concerns about Henry being a long-term, stud in the NFL at his size. But I don't mind riding the wave if I can't sell high. That's kind of that thing. Like Lamar Jackson, I worry about, but not to the degree that I'm not drafting him in certain scenarios. Lamar Jackson, I worry about when I'm comparing him and Mahomes. If Mahomes is gone and I'm at 3.01, am I going to take Lamar? Abso-freaking-lutely, I'm going to take Lamar. So please don't take out of context what I'm saying when I say be careful with Lamar Jackson. Be careful with Derrick Henry. Be careful with players like Godwin, who are ranked really, really high. And if things don't go perfectly, then they could disappoint you at that very high-priced value that you might be, coughing up to get them onto your roster, acquire them in a trade. These are not players that are being undervalued, is mainly my point. If you run into a situation where you get fair market value for Lamar or for Derrick Henry or for Godwin, then I like them. And I'll give you an example here in a little bit of where I drafted Lamar Jackson as my number 1 overall pick in a 2 QB Superflex league because it made sense at the time. I still like it. I worry a little bit about him staying healthy because when you run the ball 170 times, you are likely to get hurt. And if he escapes getting hurt in 2020, I'll be happy as can be because I'll own him in this league. I am going to actively try and trade him for Mahomes to get into a safer option, a safer model of the same player, which is what I think Mahomes is. And I take Mahomes 10 times out of 10 over Lamar, but that does not mean I doubt Lamar per start. Lamar Jackson and Mahomes, and I've said this from the beginning, and I get it gets taken out of context so much. Lamar is a top 5 overall player per start. I'm not backtracking. I'm not wishy-washy on that. Per start, Lamar Jackson's top 5 overall. I've said that literally from the beginning of January. I've said that until the tail end of last season. Per start, top 5 in 2020. Per start, top 5. How many times do I have to repeat that? Because it gets taken out of context in comments. But I worry about him staying healthy. You don't run 170 times a season and stay healthy. You just don't. Ask Mike Vick. Ask Mike Vick owners, people that took Mike Vick number 1 overall. And people did do that for all of you youngins out there that didn't get to draft Mike Vick. What an exciting player he was. He redefined QB drafting. Oh, he was just like Lamar, having a running back and a quarterback all wrapped up in one. And that's how Lamar feels. But I also felt that injury concern too, because I lived through the Mike Vick injuries. I lived through the fact that he couldn't keep it going. Who do I like at 1.10? Adams, Devontae Adams. I like at 1.10. What's up at Disneyland? Ha, says Jose. Take a selfie with Mickey with a The Fantasy Football Show image, Jose. Do it. We need it. I'll put it up on the show, man, and tag you. I'll put it on Instagram and tag you. I'll put it on the show. We want a picture with Mickey. I think running back Barkley Giants is going to be the number 1 this year. That's right what I have on the screen, so you are in good company, my man. Okay, so Barkley, McCaffrey, Barkley, you could argue either side. Elliott, I think Elliott's the number 3. Some people might have Henry there. Some people might have Cook. I think Elliott is the locked and loaded number 3. The only guy I feel like you could wiggle into the two-headed monster argument that I'm making for 2020, that it's better than it has been in over a decade. Elliott and Barkley, Elliott and McCaffrey, I'm fine with those. Cook, I don't think, I like Cook a lot. I just don't think he qualifies as being in the same caliber as Barkley and McCaffrey for 2020, but he's really close. He's like at the top of the tier. It's right below that tier. So give me Kamara at number 5. I know people are going to consider his 2019 bust of a season something that is going to be too concerning to make him a top 5 running back for you heading into 2020 if you got burned. I understand. But for me, I'm all in on Kamara at the value. Now, if he's top 5 here and he's kind of bold, imagine where he probably is going to fall in ADP in a couple months. I'd imagine he could fall all the way to 8 to 9 in some mock drafts. So if Kamara can be had at 7, 8, 9, that's very low risk for a guy that I think can have 12 plus TDs and 80 to 90 receptions. So in PPR, probably one of the lower risk first rounders you could come across. Let's get into the 6 to 10. Now, I don't expect everybody to enjoy everybody's rankings fully. In fact, I don't think you can find, one out of every 5 or 6 people might agree with 90% of your rankings, but you'll very rarely find 1 in 10 that completely agree with your top 10. That's how crazy it is, and everybody's opinions are going to vary. So take this for what it is. Don't adjust your rankings if you feel like Nick Chubb is number 10 or number 4. Stick to your guns. Just use this information to help guide you if you're on the fence about something, or, just make sure you're not like thinking that this can't be different. It can be different. I hate when people say, "Oh my God, you don't have Fournette in your top 10. That's garbage." Not everybody's rankings will be the same. I don't think you're garbage for having Fournette number 6. So why is it garbage that Fournette's not my number 6? I'll never understand that mentality people have. It's freaking ridiculous. What's up? Who's your top 10 rookies. We're talking about these right now. Big Dog, I'm not going to get off topic. I appreciate your question. I can tell you that it's going to be Jerry Jeudy in the top 2. One of the running backs will be number 1 overall for me. You're talking about Swift or J.K. Dobbins or maybe Taylor, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be J.K. Dobbins and Jeudy is my top 2. So I'll leave it at that, but we're going to do rookies another day. So Derrick Henry, number 6 in PPR, non-PPR. I can make an argument, like even looking at this, I almost want to move Henry down a spot. I almost want to put Chubb at number 6. Really excited about Chubb in 2020. I do worry about injury because he had one of the most gruesome knee injuries we've ever seen. He's getting all of his work pretty much between the tackles, which can add up differently than the hits and tackles and all that a Kamara faces. So I do worry about Chubb getting hurt, but I think they're going to focus on running him a ton, and I think you will get more receptions in 2020. So I'm kind of inclined to put Chubb at like 6 and put Henry down at 7. But I think Henry, based on his strong finish in 2020, based on his trade value, given that you could probably get a ton for him, if he starts off hot in weeks 1, 2, and 3, you'll get people that will buy in big time right away and give you probably almost anything you want outside of a top 4 overall pick. Henry will gain that kind of value, I think, early on as soon as people see evidence that he's picking up where he left off. I think a lot of people worry that he won't, but when they see that he will, Henry will have more trade value than I think anybody in that 6 on range. So it's kind of one factor as to why I have number 6. So Nick Chubb, number 7. I think Nick Chubb could have a big year. I think they probably are looking to retain Hunt. I don't know if Hunt's going to stay. Everyone said there's no way Hunt's going to stay. I said all offseason long, or all 2019 long into the final stretch of the season, don't be shocked if Kareem Hunt either goes to Kansas City again or stays put in Cleveland, because he might not find the running back market is that good given all the rookie running backs coming out and given there are only 4 or 5 legit opportunities in the NFL for teams willing to pay big dollars at least for a running back. 4 or 5 opportunities, and when there's rookies out there that are cheaper, teams aren't going to fork out a bunch of money for a guy that disappointed and had to be released from his first team, and they don't want to run the risk, and a guy that just got pulled over and almost in trouble again. Obviously the guy's not right completely. He even admitted to the police officer, and we're talking about Hunt, that he was not quite over being released in that situation that unfolded in Kansas City. So you got to ask yourself, are teams going to be willing to bet on this guy with big dollars? Probably not. What's up, Dr. Raj? Bang Bang Niner Gang in the chat. So for me, I have Nick Chubb 7. I have Aaron Jones 8. And I think there's a little regression going to take place with Aaron Jones in 2020. I have Joe Mixon, number 9. I like Mixon more this year than I did last year. I was pretty down on Mixon, and for good reason. He struggled the entire first half of the year. But I think that they're going to be able to move the ball a little bit better with Burrow, who I think they'll draft. They'll either retain A.J. Green or maybe address the wide receiver in the draft. And that's going to be big for Burrow and big for this offense, and keep, I think, Mixon seeing less 8-man fronts than he did last year in the beginning of the year. Mixon looked good with what he was given, but I was not liking his situation. I was seeing a very big decline. Looks like Dr. Raj will be joining us. What's up, Dr. Raj?
What's up, my man?
Let me get you a split screen here. There we go. What's up, man?
What's up, man? How you doing? Bang, bang, Niner Gang.
Bang, bang, Niner Gang, man. We're doing top 15 running backs for 2020.
Oh.
Let me throw some at you and tell me what you think.
Not including the rookie draft class, correct?
Right. Okay. Yeah, we're leaving them out. We can speak to that, but
we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna do the rookies maybe next week. I know I haven't been going on. I've been dealing with some stuff here and there, but we got to do next Saturday night. Let's do rookie draft wide receiver, because this is perfect. The combine is this week. We'll scout the receivers and everything. Then we can do like combine receivers, combine running, rookie wide receivers, all that stuff.
Yeah, definitely. We can definitely do that. So currently, this is my ranking right here. I have Barkley number 1. I moved Barkley to number 1 over McCaffrey, but it's like neck and neck. But one thing I've been telling and touting is the two-headed monster approach, which if you do an auction, you can pull this off. Where if you have $200 to spend in an auction, and Barkley costs you $80 and McCaffrey costs you $80, you're out of a lot of money, but you have two big guns to build around, and that's one of my.
You got the two best running backs in the league, and then the rest of your team, you better hope to God you get some sleepers.
But if you're able to get like a Kyler Murray and have that, what I call the tripod, the fantasy tripod, then I think you're in good position to dominate your league. And
fantasy tripod, I like that, like a quarterback that is like a running back, correct?
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, so the tripod. So I'm all in for the tripod in 2020. But I have Barkley, McCaffrey, Zeke Elliott, Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara.
Okay, I like. So I have. So Barkley, CMC, Zeke, Dalvin Cook, and Kamara, top 5.
Yep.
Huh? Only thing I would change is CMC is going to be my number 1, just because the ability of catching out of the backfield. He gets a little bit more usage, and again, we've talked about this. He gets a heavy dose use. Not that Barkley doesn't, and I think Barkley's going to rebound after this year, the injuries and stuff. I just think CMC slightly more usage, so he's going to give you a little. It's close. It's like a hair. It's a very close.
Yeah.
And then I have Barkley number 2. I would actually have. Now I know you're not going to agree with this one. I got my man Derrick Henry at number 3. This boy's about to get loads of carries. I mean, that's their offense. They run through Henry. I think Henry's number 3. Then I go Zeke Elliott, and then number 4 would be Dalvin Cook, or number 5 would be Dalvin Cook. I got Kamara on the outside looking into the top 5.
Okay. So Henry, so basically the same top 5. You're just taking Kamara out, putting Henry in, and then you're moving Henry up high. But I don't blame you. I mean, Henry's a beast, man. Especially if you're talking 2020 only, because my concern is him getting hurt, and he could definitely have one more big year.
I'm just looking at this next year.
Yeah.
Drafting for this next year, but overall dynasty, this and that. No, definitely not, because you're right. The amount of usage he's going to get is going to wear him down, and they're going to run him like a Mack truck. Just like we've talked about this Priest Holmes syndrome. This guy, that guy. Alexander. Back when he was at the Seahawks, those guys, they ran the ball, 30 times a game, 40 times a game sometimes, and they wore out after a while, That's after 3 years running like that, Derrick Henry's legs are going to be hurting, man.
Dylan wants to know Mostert, where are you ranking Mostert in the top?
Mostert's top 10 without doubt.
Really?
I think
nice.
Next season, this is the thing, because I think finally, if you saw what he did in a limited amount of snaps. I mean, he didn't even get that many snaps. I think now next year they're going to mold it more towards having Mostert being the feature back, but they're still going to run a backfield by committee.
I worry about them giving him enough carries to be top 10. I mean, I definitely would not draft him near top 10 value, because you don't have to as ADP.
No, you don't have to. But again, they got the committee.
Yeah.
But I think he's going to put up top 10 numbers, and that's why I say he's worth.
Well, let's get through the top 15 and see if it changes your mind when we throw all the names out, because then you'll be like, who do I bump, to get him in there. So Derrick Henry's number 6 for me. I imagine Kamara kind of gets in. So Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, Aaron Jones, Joe Mixon, Josh Jacobs are my 6 through 10.
Okay, so 6 would be Kamara. 7, I would go with, let's see. Run through those again. Let's see. I don't know if I want Chubb in the top 10. I would probably have. I don't know. I'm like Mixon either. I'm not a Mixon guy, actually. That's tough. Brandon Jacobs, I'd probably say, or Josh Jacobs. Sorry, I'd probably say he's 7 and maybe 8, 7, 8.
I always say Brandon Jacobs too.
I know. I get hung up on
Mixon's tough, because talent-wise, he's definitely there, but like you worry about his situation.
But
if they draft Burrow, do you think they don't have a pretty legitimate chance of moving the football down the field, or do you think Burrow's just going to struggle as a rookie? Because
rookie season, you can't predict it. You never know. I mean, he might be all-world rookie, go over the world, take over the world. But with a quarterback like him, they don't. I see him. He's going to take a year or two to really hit that peak, and I don't see Mixon having a bigger value because of Burrow. I think the receivers will have a bigger value because of Burrow. I don't see Mixon having a huge top,
Just
drop.
drop
I'd
10.
say Mixon's, I would say 10 for me. He's 10 for me. I got Mostert at 9. 8 would be Jacobs. Run through your 6 to 10 again.
So my top 5, Barkley, McCaffrey, Elliott, Cook, Kamara, then Henry, Chubb, Aaron Jones, Mixon,
Jones,
Jacobs.
that's the guy I was thinking. Aaron Jones. I would have him right behind Kamara. So 6 would be Kamara. Jones would be 7. I like Aaron Jones. I think he'll have a big season this year. And then Jacobs, Mostert, surprise special right there. And then I was going to say then Mixon. I would say Mixon. Mixon's still top 10 because he's really their only relevant offensive weapon at the moment on the Bengals. And then, you get a new quarterback. Maybe you get him a couple new weapons here and there. And then the wild card, A.J. Green. Is he going to be on the team still? Is he going to be going to another team? Is he going to be on the Niners? Who knows? A.J. Green. A lot of speculation.
I know you're going to love him if he's a Niner. It's going to go boom!
I mean, of course I'm going to have him.
I know.
Of course I'm going to love him. But at the end of the day, do I really want him over Emmanuel Sanders? No.
What do we say?
The reason why.
What was his nickname going to be if he becomes a Niner?
What's that?
What was the nickname I gave him for you? And you said you're going to hold back on your nickname for the...
What was the nickname you gave me? Hold up.
Green. What was it? Or was it? Maybe that was another player. I don't know. I said something that was funny. I don't know. But A.J. Green, I could see being retained or being a 49er. I don't know.
Yeah, he could be on. Honestly, this is my prediction on A.J. Green. I think A.J. Green, drum roll please, is going to the New England Patriots.
That'll be interesting.
No, I think so.
Okay, 10 through 15 for me. Or 11 through 15. So I have 10 listed twice on here. So Jacobs, then it goes Drake. I'm putting Drake up there. I know it's high.
Yeah,
I know it's bold. Then Fournette, who I think people think I have way too far. People probably thought I left Fournette out. And then I have Eckler, Melvin Gordon, but that could live and die by where he goes. And then Devin Singletary at 15. It's really tough. That 10 to 15, you could really take anybody for like 20 and say, move them up. You could take Mostert.
Kenny Drake at 11, and then Nick Chubb at 12, and then Melvin Gordon 13. And then I would probably put – that's tough because you're right. Eckler could probably –
Eckler was like 3 or 4.
I kind of do like a slash, Eckler/Gordon on that spot. It's hard to pick one. And then, oh, man, that's tough. And then 15 probably I would say you could really throw anybody at this point on that spot. Run through those names again.
So let's see here. Drake. Let me move these around because I got them. I included 10 twice on accident, so I'm gonna mess with my graphic a little bit.
I like Drake at 11. That's who I was thinking.
Drake, Fournette, Eckler, Gordon, Singletary.
I wouldn't put Fournette in my top 15. I'd have Singletary over him, so he'd be my 15 right there.
Yeah.
Fournette's one of those guys you either love him or you hate him, and it's tough. Like, I think he's good, but then there's games where he comes to reality, and then the injuries, and I just don't trust Fournette.
Miles Sanders is a good name to throw in the mix. I just feel like they're not going to give him enough carries, or I worry about that until they prove me wrong. And if they prove me wrong, I'll adjust my rankings. I'm not saying I can't buy into Miles Sanders, but the Eagles are notorious for a running back by committee. So that coaching staff.
True. But I think that Sanders, I think for now, we leave him out. But I think eventually, I think they'll probably, I would hope they would bump him up more and give him more touches because he showed flashes that he can be, really good for them, and I would like to see him get a lot more carries. He was solid when they were consistent with him. But that's the thing with most players, if you get consistent carries, consistent usage, you're going to do great.
Yeah, let me pull up my rankings real quick and see who I'm missing. I know Sanders is one that people are going to have a problem with having outside of my top 15. And I get the funny thing is, no one's rankings are going to be anywhere close to anybody else's rankings. Rankings are so
differently. Everybody has their own opinion. It's all opinion based, at this point.
When you post rankings on IG, it's dude, you can't go 4 comments without seeing a what the
Yeah, people go, oh yeah. When you post anytime you give your opinion on something and someone does, oh man, it's crazy. I've been doing on my page, I've been doing the team of the decade for the 49ers. I don't know if you saw that, but team of the decade. Oh man, I mean, some of the people that players are voting yes or no on, like Patrick Willis. He's probably the best linebacker we've had on our team, maybe of all time. One of the best linebackers we've had on this Niner team of all time. So, of course, he's a natural team of the decade selection. There's some people that voted no. Oh, man, people were in arms, uproar. How did people not pick Patrick Willis' team?
Right. So guys left out with Chris Carson got left out. Mark Ingram, Marlon Mack, David Montgomery, Todd Gurley, James Conner, Kerryon Johnson, Kareem Hunt could get up there. Le'Veon Bell, if he got traded, would be a good guy candidate to jump up. Philip Lindsay, and then that's about it. I mean, past like Mostert and that's it. Maybe Damian Williams. Damian Williams could maybe be talked about.
Damian Williams, that's a good.
He should be in the conversation at least, but I don't know if I'd rank him at 15. But I think he should be in the conversation of like a guy that can get there.
I think definitely next season he's gonna basically. He can either go either way. He can either. That's the thing. Super Bowl heroes, they go one of two ways. They either go up and become really good, or they go down and they're a one hit wonder kind of thing. Like Malcolm Smith, the linebacker from Seahawks that year. He was a big time, savior for them in the Super Bowl, and then signed with the Raiders, signed with the Niners, and never panned out. So.
Yeah. So Chris Carson, what are your thoughts on him? A couple comments on Chris Carson, and I left him out because he year after year worries fantasy owners to the point where like you're talking about Penny taking over, fumbles. There are a lot of red flags every year regarding Carson. So I don't know if that's crazy if it's that crazy to leave him out of your top 15. He's a hopeful guy.
I think and that's the reason why I don't really think of Chris Carson as a top 15. He's great production-wise. He puts up good value, but you're right. With the Seahawks, you just never know because they're kind of like the Niners where they run multiple guys out that backfield, and one guy catches fire, they're going to start riding the hot hand. Pete Carroll's not afraid to bench someone, or put another guy over like Penny if he's playing well, and that's the thing with the Seahawks. It's, if they're running hot, okay, you ride them, you let them roll. And the thing is, Russell Wilson dictates that team. If he's starting to feel chemistry with a certain guy, he's just going to keep going to that certain guy. And, Carson is good, but you're right. There's red flags because you never know if he's going to consistently get the carries. And he's probably the running back one, in our sense, but it fluctuates sometimes. So that reason alone, the usage, is the reason why I don't think he's going to be in the top 15. He's still a good running back. I would love him on my team.
So one trade I've done, one of my two-headed monster approaches, the tripod even, has been to get Barkley and McCaffrey, and then so let me give you a scenario that you could be left with. If you're not talking about an auction draft, we're talking about you get the 1 or 2 pick out of the hat, so you obviously already have one of those players. So now all you got to do is trade like your second, your third, and your fourth, or whatever to get that number 2 overall to get the other one. Would you rather have Barkley and McCaffrey and no pick until round 7? Or would you rather have the normal number 7 overall draft slot?
So, I draft basically. So, hold on, say it again.
You have Barkley and McCaffrey and no pick until round 7. Then you're back to normal.
Okay.
Or you have the regular number 7 overall draft slot with no trading whatsoever. What would you rather have?
I'd go with the regular 7, I think. Those two are great, but you get a whole bunch of other players that you could sit there and
see. I stack my teams type of guy. Like I like to have the big guns, and I like to find the Chark, find the AJ Brown, find those guys, find the Kyler Murray. Maybe you get really decent quarterback with that strategy. Still,
that's true. That's true. But
so that's it's arguable.
The thing is, those two like Saquon Barkley last year. If you would have done that last year.
Right.
You'd be pissed. You'd be kicking the wall because he was hurt. He didn't give you the production that you wanted.
It's true. It happens.
But that's the thing. Fantasy football, you're going to roll the dice.
Yeah.
I would play it. I like to play it safe. I'll take my chances on my 7 picks. But that is not a bad strategy.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun in auction because you could still probably get a Kyler Murray. You could still probably get like one wide receiver, like a maybe not Chark, but a player you think could, maybe Hollywood Brown. Like we both love Hollywood Brown. I think that would be a great player to throw into that.
I think an auction would be a better use of that strategy. In auction, I think, because you'd roll, and I've done auction before where, you get two big-time players. I did fantasy baseball before, and I would just go for the big guns, get a couple of big guns, and then find sleepers here and there, and then get, take cheap guys here and there that you feel that are going to be sleepers, fill in the rest of your team. And you can do that with football, too. I think that'd be great in auction. When you go in regular standard draft, I think it's harder to run that strategy.
Biggest prediction out of the names on this list, then, so I'll read them off again, and then you tell me the one guy that could surprise and the one guy that can bust. So you got to kind of pick your bust and explode. So Barkley, McCaffrey, Elliott, Cook, Kamara. No one's gonna. Well, maybe you have a bust on that.
Elliott could be a bust.
So Elliott could be your bust. Okay.
I think Elliott could be a bust. We all expect big. This thing, we all expect big things out of Elliott, but new coach, and the whole issue with Jerry Jones. Cowboys are always a wild card. You can always sit there and say anybody on the Cowboys could be a bust. So, do I think he will be? No, I think Zeke's going to have a great season, but he could be a bust.
Okay, so we'll throw that down as your bust. I like Elliott, but dude, anything can happen. One of the top 4 ranked running backs here will probably not be in the top 10. There's a potential for 50% of the top 4, top 5 not to be in the top 10. That's the way running backs are every year. They get hurt. Okay, so you're if you have to pick a breakout from this group, we'll leave Henry out because you've already talked about him. So we'll just go from Aaron Jones. So 8, I have Aaron Jones at 8. Aaron Jones, Mixon, Jacobs, Drake, Fournette, Eckler, Gordon, Singletary. Or anybody right below. So if you want to use Mostert, you can.
Kenyon Drake, man. I think that Arizona Cardinals offense is going to be super improved. It's going to be high-powered. Kyler Murray is going to improve this season. And I feel that Kenyon Drake's the perfect guy for that offense. We've talked about that before. Yep. I like Kenyon Drake.
Love Drake.
I think he's going to have a monster. I wouldn't say monster, but he's going to have a surprisingly good season.
I'd say I like Monster. I like Monster.
Okay, he'll have a monster.
I think 5 to 10 is his in the cards, man. Top 5 to 10 running back.
I think you're right. I think he can.
A lot of risk, but
definitely a lot of risk. But I think he can pound out a good a 5 to 10 type season. Because I really feel that Kyler Murray and that offense are going to take off this year. I mean, they showed us a lot. He was a rookie last year, and he put in some good numbers. I feel that Kyler Murray's going to be like Lamar Jackson was this year.
Yeah, Murray's my. He's the only Lamar Jackson capable QB I think in 2020, and
it's crazy I say it because I see a play twice a year. We play him the Niners. We play him twice a year, so I saw him and. I'll eat crow on Kyler Murray. I'll be the first one to do it because I remember sitting there when he's coming out of the draft. I was like, this guy's not going to make it. He should have stuck to baseball. This guy's he's overrated. I said all the negative stuff, and I was like, no way, he's not going to be good. And I watched him play. Oh man, I was wrong. This kid's got
he's too talent. Short. I still hear people tell me he's too short. That argument's done. He's already played well.
And he's going to only get better because he's only going to get more experience. He's going to learn how to read a defense better. He's going to get more relaxed. He's going to get more confidence. They're building a good team around him. They're going to get a better O-line around him. He has good weapons on that team, So, honestly, I think Kyler Murray's sky's the limit for this kid. He's going to be good. I hope he does well. And I'm a Niner fan, so for me to wish well for an Arizona Cardinals player, that's saying a lot.
Okay, so there's the rankings, guys. I appreciate everybody's comments on them. If you have any more, throw them out. I'll throw your question or your comment on the screen if I can. Now I'm going to show you my, and I'll tell you what, I'll describe it to you since you're not watching Dr. Raj, the actual screen, right? So let me pull it up. Here's my draft that I'm currently in. Have you ever done a 2 QB league or a Superflex league?
Yeah, I've done that.
It makes things so much different.
It's crazy, yeah.
So I'm doing this. It's a 12 team. I'm going to expand this so you guys won't be able to see our faces for a minute. But right here, I was given the number 10 overall pick. And Mahomes went at 9. So I drafted Lamar, who I've been on record saying I worry about him staying healthy at 170 attempts a season rushing the football. But in a 2 QB league, he's gold per start. And so is Patrick Mahomes. So I drafted him at 1.10. Then at the turn or flip around into the second round, I had the 2.3. I took Deshaun Watson. So first of all, what are your thoughts on going QB in a 2 QB league? It definitely makes you thin at running back, but then I did something at the end, the next round. I'll talk about that in a second, or the same round, to address that. But is that an approach that you would do in a 2 QB league? Can you see yourself just dominating the QB category?
I got a 2 QB league, and I get the 2 best quarterbacks in the league. Or arguably the honestly, right there, you dominate the league, and then
So
you can. I think that's a good idea.
I traded my 4th and my 5th rounder for the pick right after my Deshaun Watson pick, the 2.4, and I took Nick Chubb. So I know you're not super high on Nick Chubb, but so I have Lamar, Deshaun Watson, and then I took Nick Chubb right away. I lost my 4th and 5th rounder, but in order to get that running back, I kind of ruined the opportunity for me to get a big running back. In order to get that running back, I had to give up some depth. But for me, given that I didn't have to give up my 3rd rounder, I just gave up my 4th and my 5th. I was happy as can be to get that pick. So now I got Chubb and those 2 quarterbacks.
That's pretty good, man. That's a lethal team. And again, if you got a 2 quarterback league and you got 2 of arguably the best quarterbacks in the league, you're going to be running. You're going to be in every game. You're going to be able to win almost every game because they're going to put up tons of points. You just fill out the rest of your team.
And I didn't mention probably the 2 most important things I forgot to mention. It's a dynasty league, and it's a 6-point per TD pass league.
That's what I figured, actually. That's why I said, because when you have quarterbacks, this thing, when you have quarterbacks that put up so many touchdowns, you're just going to get, like I said, you're going to get tons of points.
But it's 6 points per TD pass. Most leagues are 4 points per TD pass. When you make 6 points per TD pass in a 1 QB league, Mahomes enters the conversation of a top 12 overall pick when you get 6 points.
More of a stacked type player,
So this is a money league. It's an expert league, and it's full of IG people. But it's also a dynasty league, so I'm thrilled. And at this turn here, so we're at the end of the 2nd round. It went. So here's the picks. It went McCaffrey, Barkley, Cook, Mike Thomas, Elliott, Hopkins, Kamara, Derrick Henry, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson to me, Tyreek Hill, Chris Godwin. That's round 1. Turns into round 2. Leonard Fournette, Devontae Adams, who I probably would have really strongly considered there though. Yeah. Then it went Watson to me. Then I traded for the next pick. Right after my pick, I got Nick Chubb. Then it went Aaron Jones, Mixon, Jacobs. Russell Wilson was the 4th QB taken. There still hasn't been another QB taken since Russell Wilson. It's crazy. Juju Smith-Schuster, Mike Evans, Amari Cooper, and then now the pick that had McCaffrey number 1 overall is on the clock with back-to-back picks for his 2nd and 3rd selection. Then it's going to head back down my way. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 picks in between my next pick. There's a really good chance I get somebody like Drake or AJ Brown, especially given that the QB run hasn't even happened in this 2 QB league yet. 4 QBs are off the board.
You got 2 great QBs. You got a good running back. You got Tyreek Hill, good wide receiver. Now you're just stacking talent. You don't have to worry about.
Yeah.
Because other people, this is the thing. They're gonna have a good starting quarterback. They'll all have a good starting quarterback. But QB2, they're gonna have some garbage bum maybe on their team or some average guy. Mm-hmm. You're gonna have 2 studs. I
don't know why the QB run hasn't happened yet. My whole thing was when I traded my 4th and my 5th to get that Nick Chubb pick, was that because a QB run hadn't happened yet, between my between my Chubb pick and my 3rd round pick, there would be so many QBs going there. Not a lot of wide receivers or running backs would have gone, which is going to benefit me because I'd be going against the trend. But the trend hasn't even happened yet. Yeah. The QBs, so I'm hoping a lot of QBs go in round 3 here. For a 2 QB league, I'm kind of scratching my head as to why they haven't taken.
That's a little funny that they're not taking QBs. But you know what? When there's a run, you're going to be able to snatch up that talent. But
yeah,
I honestly think that you got it made because again, let's say you play a guy that has Patrick Mahomes. You're going to have Lamar Jackson matching up against Patrick Mahomes. His second quarterback's probably going to be like throwing a name, maybe like a Matt Stafford quality type player, and you're going to have Deshaun Watson. So you're going to win that.
The only other thing I didn't mention was that it's a little bit deeper starting lineup, so that's probably accounting for this. So you have two two running backs, two wide receivers, and then there's like two or so flexes or something. So there's like an extra player or two in your lineup, which can kind of explain why maybe people are waiting. But still, in a 2 QB league, it's crazy. I just hope they, Watson and Lamar and Chubb, I feel really, really good about that. And we'll see if I can land Hunt later to kind of secure up that. If Hunt does stay, that'll help me secure my running back 1. So I might have to reach for Chubb or for Hunt a little bit in order to ensure I have a running back 1 all year, assuming he stays with Cleveland, which was the current thinking right now.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good strategy. I think you did good with your strategy so far. I think, like you said, Watson and Jackson. Oh, that's gonna be fun to watch.
Yeah, Lamar, Chubb, Watson. I'm liking it. It's again. I'll be struggling a little bit. I've been trying to. This is the approach I talk about a lot, where you trade 2 picks for 1, 2 picks for 1. You keep kicking the can down the problem down the road. So when you kick the can down the road or the problem down the road, so that's when so you trade your 4th and your 5th for a 2nd, right? Then you trade your 6th and 7th for a 4th. Then you trade your 8th and 9th for a 6th. You're kicking the problem down the road so far that by the time you actually hit any kind of void in your draft where you have a long wait before you pick, you're talking about guys that are kind of equal to guys getting picked up later, So that's kind of my approach.
No, that's a smart pick. Actually, that's similar to what the Seahawks did last year. They had maybe, and this is what a lot of people are saying the Niners might do this year. So they had basically no first round pick. I think they only had a 2nd round pick and then or something, or like a 1st round and a 4th round. I don't know. They had a big gap between picks in real life. So what they did is they took their picks and they kept trading, and they turned 3 picks into 10 picks. It's crazy how they did it, and that was something that everybody was talking about last year in the draft, where they were able to get DK Metcalf, and all the other guys they drafted. They had a pretty strong draft, but they honestly went into the draft without much draft capital, and a lot of people are saying that might be a good strategy for team like the Niners to use, because we have a 1st round pick. And then we have a 5th round pick, because we traded some picks to get the D Ford, Emmanuel Sanders. So they're saying we might take that 1st round pick, trade it for a 2nd and a 3rd round pick, take that 3rd pick, make it into a couple 4th round pick, kind of like that. So that's not a bad strategy to have. They do it in real life, and it can definitely work in fantasy football.
Yeah, so I'm excited about that team, and it's a money league, so they're make it even better. All right, let's do news real quick before we kind of jump. Let's see. I'm going to read off some news. Basically, there's some talk. I don't know what I mentioned to you in a text, but the league's looking to add potentially another week to the season. That kind of got held up right now. They're I guess going to announce things later, but franchise tagging has been delayed 2 days, I think, because they are still working out details and stuff. But things have been leaking. We don't know if all of it's true and what's been confirmed and what's actually going to go down in 2020. But if they extend the NFL 1 more week and give every team 2 bye weeks, which is what some people are reporting could happen, and it could happen right away this year, what does that do to you as a fan page and what you do and and how teams what does that do in a football sense, not in a fantasy? And then I'll speak to it from a fantasy perspective. But what does that do to everything, your day to day, man? It's crazy. This will affect things.
It's definitely going to affect things. It's going to make the season longer, of course. Just going to make me busier, really. More news. The bye week. If there's an extra bye week, that's just another extra week for, of waiting and anticipation kind of posts and stuff like that. There's not going to be a lot of, on a bye week, there's not usually news, your players aren't, unless there's injuries. If there's injuries that come into place, then you're going to be tracking those injuries during that bye week, But really, as far as the whole rules, there's been a lot of rule proposals and stuff like that. Whether it gets approved by the players union and stuff has to be seen. But it's going to really cause a lot of maybe more injury risk, more concern of players' safety. So that's going to become an issue. And then I was looking into it, and they're saying that they might expand roster sizes because of it. That's something I hope. If they do expand the season, I really hope they expand the roster sizes. And then that's where fan pages, we're going to be talking about, more signings, more players, what kind of players, depth chart kind of stuff. That's going to have an impact.
But with two, if they do implement, so yeah, if they make it longer with one game and they don't do the extra bye week, then it would extend the season. But if they do the extra bye week, it's almost like nothing's really extended. It's just they're making the season longer, but they'll still play the same amount of games technically.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
that could maybe be the reason they're going to maybe do the second bye week.
Now the other thing is the big thing is, so they were saying they would take out one of the preseason games, right, and make it 3 instead of 4. Now the big news would be the playoff structure, because they're saying they would add a team into the playoffs. That right there is where it gets crazy, because then it's going to be like, okay, now for number 1 seed really matters. So then it's going to be a hunt of who has the number 1 seed. Getting information regarding what are the seed possibilities, who's playing who in the playoffs. Does this team still have a chance if they're 8-8? Things like that. So it expands it a little bit in that sense, makes the playoffs a little bit more. I mean, I know they're looking for more revenue and more entertainment value, but that number 1 seed is going to be a big. That's what you want. That's what you want now.
So that now I was gonna ask you next. So hopefully this solves the problem I'm hoping doesn't get created. But when the longer you make the season, the more separation you could potentially create for teams, right? So like in the beginning of the year, the first 8 weeks, everybody's really close. But as the season goes along, you start getting most teams, if they lock a playoff spot, it's like in double-digit weeks, right? So if you expanded the season to 18 weeks and didn't do the 2 bye weeks, you might have teams locking up their playoff spot and then maybe not playing their starters in the final 2 weeks of the season or something crazy like that. So it could alter fantasy football in a way we can't, anticipate yet until we go through an actual full season. Or maybe because they do the playoff expansion as well, where they have 7 teams on each side, that will make it more competitive to the very end of week 18 or whatever. So that's tough. What do you think on that? Do you think that 7 teams on each side making the playoffs makes it to where it's really hard to sit out week 17 and 18?
Yeah, okay. I do, because those games where teams would normally rest someone and say, okay, we can just snooze this game, hit the snooze button, take the L if we have to, not be as competitive. Now, let's say it's week 17 and you're like on the cusp of first round bye or not. Because I know these teams, they play to win the game, right? But if it's week 17 and you got some players that you just want to rest up, I don't think it's going to make it happen as much. I think they're going to play a little bit harder. So those later games become a little bit more competitive, because usually in the playoffs in fantasy football, it's week 16, week 17, you're like, oh man, I didn't have my best player didn't even play this week, and you're kicking yourself. Whereas now that player might actually play, because this team has to win the first round bye. Let's say they're like right on the cusp of getting first round bye, the number 1 seed or 5th seed. Let's say the 5th seed, right? And if they don't win this game, they're not a number 1 seed. So that's going to be like, okay, we have to play all our best players. We got to win this number 1 seed. So I think in a fantasy perspective, it'll make it more competitive.
How many teams are we going to have on a bye during the heavy bye weeks? Will it just be like, I can't even think of the math right now, but because they're extending it 1 game, and because they crowd the bye weeks in like week 4 through 11 or 12.
Yeah.
I wonder if they'll expand that, or if there's just going to be more teams on a bye the entire way through. That's going to be weird, man. I
don't know. I just don't know. I mean, I'm not always one for change, so yeah. I'm not 100% behind it. I'm sure once it gets started, we're all going to be like, oh yeah, whatever. But honestly, I think they should just leave it as is. There's no problem to me, but it's a business and they want to make money. So, I mean, I see where they're coming from.
Yeah. Well, hopefully they thought this out, and Big Dog said he hates it for fantasy teams that might rest their players in the last 2 weeks. But like we said, if they expand the playoffs, it could make it to where it's harder. It might be people are going to be fighting for that one seed, and if a lot of good teams are in the mix for that, then maybe they don't sit any players. I don't know. It could go both ways. I could see it really ruining. But this is what I'm going to advise people do, and I've been saying it before this, so it gives me a reason to keep yelling it. But add total point prizes to your league. If you have a playoff prize, so whoever wins the playoffs wins the championship, have like a second place, whoever's the total point winner at week 18 or week 17's end wins your second place prize. But total point race is important, I think, in fantasy. And it got taken out about 4 or 5 years ago out of the mainstream. Nobody does total point races at all anymore. And I don't know why. Because to me, that determines who the best fantasy team is, not somebody that gets lucky through the playoffs and wins the 3 or 4 games.
That's the thing, because a lot of times these teams catch fire. They get these players that just start peaking at the right time. They kind of meddle their way through the season, and then playoffs come, they catch fire. And that's kind of, I've lost to a team like that where all of us, like, I was dominating the league, had the most points scored, just killing everybody, number one seed, this and that. Comes to a playoff, you get the guy with the last seed basically, and he beats you because his team is hot, and you're just like, oh my God, So it happens, man. It happens.
There's also talk about letting everyone have Christmas off, says MT.
We'll see. We'll see what they do. There's gonna be a lot of rule changes, and I don't know, man. It's gonna be crazy. Free agency is gonna be crazy. I mean, this offseason's already forever long.
Jedi says, do you guys think fantasy leagues will have to expand their benches? I think they will in some respects. Whatever the league does, I think fantasy football will have some kind of response to it. You know what I mean?
Adjust to it. Yeah, I think you're gonna have to adjust to it.
Yeah, it'll be a trend of adapting to it. It'll be talked about a lot. It's a big thing. I mean, even statistically, if they expand the season but give 2 bye weeks, then players are playing the same amount of weeks, so it won't change like who's the highest scorer or whatever. But if they do expand it and they don't give the extra bye week, that'll be the crazy thing. But I think those will go hand in hand. The three preseason games is kind of good. I don't like the preseason myself, anyways. I feel like it's just an opportunity for players to get hurt. But then again, they need it to kind of get adjusted to getting hit with game time pads on. So I don't know. But then again, if you're sitting out the 4th game, does it matter if you take it away? Probably not.
Yeah,
It'll be interesting. But all right, man. Any other news before we jump? Anybody in the news right now?
No, I've just been talking to a lot of helmets lately. That's about it.
Yeah, I've heard. I've also heard you're the biggest 49er page around. Everyone knows that.
Yeah, people do. Some people don't like it, but it is what it is.
Marlon Mack extended or denies Marlon Mack extension reports, so I don't know what's going to go on with Marlon Mack. Marlon Mack to me is kind of a hidden value in mid rounds of fantasy football drafts. You can get him around 4 or 5, and I think he's one of the only running backs in rounds 4 or 5 if he falls that far in real legitimate drafts and leagues. Right now he's falling there, that I think has running back 1 potential left. So I really like Marlon Mack at that value. Ben Roethlisberger 2 to 3 months away from full clearance. That's in the news. What else is in the news? Danny Amendola re-signs on a 1-year deal with the Lions. That's next. Bucks Jameis Winston 2-year deal is being considered by the Bucks for Winston. I'm not a big fan of Winston, man. I worry for Godwin and Evans. I know people are tired of me talking about this. I've talked about it a lot. But I just feel like Winston's not going to be there 2 or 3 years from now. I just don't see it. And they don't obviously see it because they're not extending him yet.
That's true.
So the guy goes and gets LASIK and everyone thinks everything's going to be okay. I don't know, man. Maybe he's going to see too much. Maybe he's going to be overstimulated now. Odell Beckham.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm just not a Winston fan. Like, he puts up gaudy numbers, but he also puts up gaudy turnovers, so it's tough. And even from a fantasy perspective, you look at him, he puts up good numbers, this and that, gets a lot of touchdowns. But from his actual coach, from an actual game perspective, he cost that team a lot of games, and the coach is probably going to sit back and say, do we really want him? Is he really going to help us win games? Like, is he the answer for us at quarterback? They got to sit there and really decide, is Jameis Winston going to be the guy that takes them to the playoffs, to the to a championship level team, playoff level team, with his ability to turn the ball over. Like, again, he can play good. He can sling the ball. He throws some big time touchdowns here and there, but he also throws some big time interceptions here and there. So
Odell Beckham Jr. on track for OTAs. What do you think about Odell in 2020?
I like Odell. I just feel like, I don't know, he's one of those guys where he's not getting younger, so he really has a couple. This is his last couple of years of good football left. Great football left. He really needs to harness it and come in with that fire. But at the same time, it's the Browns. I just I can never see the Browns being a good team, and that's why when he got traded to Cleveland, I wasn't so. I was like, I just don't think it's a great fit for him. Even in New York, there was issues. The quarterback was, Eli was on his way out. He was having issues with him. He's a good talent, but there's just always something with him that limits his potential. But if he was, just has to be on the right situation. If he would have went to the Niners, I think he would have had a beautiful season. But I'm hoping to see Odell rebound this season. But I'm not expecting a huge season from him. I hope he does.
Austin Hooper likely to command $11 million annually outside of Atlanta. That's crazy, man. Everyone's got him super highly ranked. I'm not buying into Austin Hooper yet.
This is what I think. If Austin Hooper gets $11 million annually, $11 million, can you imagine what George Kittle's going to get? That's
something over the middle.
Over the middle. He's going to get Kittle over the middle money. I'm telling you, I know early speculation, they were saying a couple weeks ago, around Super Bowl time, was $13 million annually. If Austin Hooper's getting $11 million,
Kittle might get 20.
$20 million. That's and so my friend, I can't say all the inside information. I can't give you all the scoop, but my friend that knows the team, that knows Parag Marath, this and that, this guy, he I can't say it all, but let's just say that Kittle's agent was looking for wide receiver money. So
he should.
So that's what I'm saying. If Hooper's getting $11 million, Kittle, like you said, $20 million is not out of the picture, man.
Kittle should get low-end quarterback money.
Man, I hope that's gonna be tough for us because we don't have a lot of cap space, man. It's gonna be crazy.
AJ Green wants out of Cincinnati. We've talked about that. Maybe 49ers are looking to add him, but you think Patriots?
My prediction is Patriots. If Brady, I think that's gonna be the sell to keep Brady. Is we got you AJ Green now. Go make it happen, baby.
Yeah.
Do you think Brady's going to leave New England, or you think he's
I do. I think people are nuts to think it isn't on his mind to go prove everybody wrong. He's one of the more competitive guys in the league. People are weird about Brady. I know you're not a big fan of him having anything left in the tank, which it's fine. I can understand why. I think in the right spot he'll do okay. I think he'll.
Brady.
I mean, everyone's saying he has a noodle arm left, and you go back and watch the film. He throws 50, 60-yard passes. I mean, he'll be fine. So he's super competitive. I think he's on a leash. I think his wife's like, you got 1 year left, man, and he's thinking, what can I go accomplish? Not, can I just win another championship in my safe little environment here? Brady's competitive. He's going to want to go somewhere. The Chargers, I think, would be a good spot for him. I don't think the Raiders would be a good spot for him. But hey, maybe you add Brady, and I'm going to think differently about that offense, I guess. But
I mean, Tom Brady, like I said, he's one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. Definitely, you don't get that way without being competitive, and I feel like maybe he's just run out of challenges in New England. Like, he's done everything he could in New England.
I think he's gonna,
yeah, and he's sitting there saying to himself, "Can I do it?" Because maybe he's questioning himself, saying, "Maybe I got to prove everybody wrong."
I think he is
so wrong, and go to another team and do it. Because Joe Montana, and his childhood hero was Joe Montana, and he studied Joe Montana. And Joe Montana, at the end of his career, what did he do? He says, "You know what? I'm tired of everybody sitting here saying Steve Young's the man and this and that, and everybody's hating on me." Because there was two camps back then. It was Steve Young, Team Joe Montana. He went to the Chiefs, so he can prove that he can do it with another team. I could see Tom Brady saying, "You know what? I'm going to do like Joe Montana, go to another team and prove myself right." So
yeah,
I could totally see that happen if he goes to the Chargers.
I think he does, and I think he does better than people expect because he's not dumb. He's not going to go to a place where he doesn't have wide receivers and weapons. He goes to the Chargers,
man.
He's got Eckler, who replaces White, but better. He has Keenan Allen and Williams. He has Hunter Henry. He's got good options, man.
Good offense. The defense isn't a slouch.
The Chargers would be in contention. I don't.
That would be a perfect play. And Sandy, who wouldn't want to live in beautiful sunny San Diego?
But they won't be in San Diego anymore, unfortunately.
Oh, L.A. Sorry, L.A. My bad. keep the you
Yeah,
said
well, hey,
Oakland
it's
Raiders.
hard to
I
keep
said
track
San
sometimes.
Diego Chargers.
It's
Well,
like
LA. It's still nice.
Las Vegas. Where are these teams going next year?
Yeah,
Um,
they'd be
let's
in
see
LA.
here.
But I mean, still, the West Coast would be nice for him. His
Yeah.
family's there. There's a lot to do.
Well,
Go to
L.A.
Disneyland.
Maybe he wants to start him. He wants the flashy. I don't know. Antonio Brown.
That guy's a clown.
Yeah. Do you think Antonio Brown ever plays in the NFL again?
No, we've said this many
Yeah.
times. I don't think he's ever playing again. He's a head case, man.
Yeah. That's about it. Landry underwent off-season hip surgery. That's a good one to talk about with you. Here. I would have it read it, but I think she's going to read it fast. Hold on.
Landry was banged up for a large portion of the 2019 regular season. The good news is he's reportedly expected to be back at some point during training camp. Still, hip surgery is far from ideal for any player, particularly one that relies so much on their after-the-catch ability. Landry was one of the only bright spots of last season's Browns, as he posted a season-long 8.3, 1.174, 6 line while averaging a stellar 8.5 yards per target.
Did you catch that? Basically, Landry was banged up for a large portion of 2019 regular season. With good news, he's reportedly expected to be back at some point during training camp. But the fact that he had hip surgery and it's supposed to keep him out, I don't know what kind of hip surgery though.
Oh, that's tough.
Do you have any thoughts on that? Like hip surgery, what's he looking at? Do you know?
I mean, that's going to limit his mobility. Definitely going to limit his speed. That's tough.
What do you have hip surgery for? What's it sound like to you? Because you don't know.
Some arthritic changes. I mean, he might be having some arthritis. There could be some joint issues in there. There might be some trouble with the joint cartilage. Also, there could be some blood flow issues. There could be a whole lot of stuff. There could be small fractures. I mean, he's probably doing it because there was probably a lot of wear and tear, and that hip was causing him pain. Maybe he had like a really bad hip pointer, and at some point he was just like, if I don't take care of this now and do some surgery and go and clean it up, because you can do like some cleanup just like you do with the knee. It's orthopedic. It's a orthopedic issue. So you go in there, clean it up, make sure everything's good, so that way you can go back out and you're not. When you go play football, all the forces on your hip and your leg, they start over time accumulating. And down the line, he would probably need a hip replacement. So he's probably being proactive and saying, let me nip this in the butt now so I don't need a hip replacement, and kind of prolong his career a little bit. So that's what it sounds like to me. He's probably had a lot of hip issues. Maybe he had a lot of pain, probably with some joint issues there, and he went in and did some cleanup and stuff like that.
Ball is Life wants to know, what does Raj want San Francisco to do this offseason? Not what are they going to do, what do you want them to do? Like, what are your big wish list items?
My big thing is just bring the gang back together, get as many of the free agents that we have. We have 17 free agents. Get as many guys as we can back and make another run at it, because this team was good enough to make it to the Super Bowl. Might as well bring them back and try to run it back. That's what I think. I don't think they're going to make any splashy moves, and I don't think they need to make any splashy moves, because they have everybody. They have what it takes, to win. They proved it this season. Just bring people back, and hopefully you can run it back. They're going to have to extend Kittle, extend Defoe, and that's what I hope they do first. Somehow they got to find a way to get Arik Armstead and Jimmy Ward back. There's not a lot of money out there. So my hope, this is what I really hope, is that they're going to have to restructure some contracts, cut some people. Jerick McKinnon, hopefully he can restructure. I love Marquise Goodwin, but maybe they cut him, and I don't want them to cut him, but if you want to keep the more important guys on your team, maybe you got to cut a guy like Marquise Goodwin. And maybe, this is the other thing, I really hope Jimmy Garoppolo restructures his contract. I love Jimmy. You know me, I'm the biggest Jimmy Garoppolo fan out there. But I think he needs to, and I hope he does it. I hope he restructures his deal, kind of like Tom Brady did a couple years back. Take some money, off your off the cap hit. Allow the players that you want back on this team to sign back and kind of help your brothers out. I think if he does that, man, Tom Brady's or Jimmy Garoppolo would be loved even more. People will embrace him, and they can make a run because he'll get the guys he wants back.
Roger wants to know if Kittle's having off-season surgery.
He is not. He has a torn labrum, which was reported a couple weeks ago, but he said he is not having surgery. I know the guy that does his training, Jay Cuthbert, out in Nashville. He's a good friend of Kittle's, and he basically said he's not going to do any surgery. The guy's a great trainer, and he told me he's been working on a lot of stabilization of that shoulder. And, I agree with it. I said if you just make sure that shoulder's stabilized as much as you can, it'll heal over the off season, and you keep that shoulder as strong as you can. You could avoid surgery because surgery is kind of tough right now. It's a touchy thing for Kittle, especially in the middle of contract negotiations. That would be tough. And Kittle, and I think that's the reason Kittle is not going to go after surgery, because right now, imagine he goes under the knife, gets the surgery, comes back, and he has to go do a contract. The Niners can come back with him and say, hey, you just had surgery. We can't give you this X amount of money. So that's scary. And I know he's not going to get surgery because of multiple issues, multiple reasons. But one of the other reasons is he trusts his trainer, and he's going to get him right and kind of stabilize that shoulder. So.
Kittle, where do you rank Kittle in 2020 fantasy football? Second round easy?
Yeah, second round easy. He's going to earn that money, man. And that's the thing, because now he's going to get paid. He's going to have to go out there and prove he's that, worth that much, whatever money he's going to get.
1,000 yards, how many catches and how many TDs?
Yeah, 85 catches, 10 TDs, 1,000 yards easy.
Nice. I like it. That's a second rounder right there.
That's it right there. That's beautiful numbers.
All right, Doc.
Super Bowl championship, baby.
Yeah. All right, man. I think that's going to put a wrap on the show, but I will say that I can't wait for the season to start because, dude, we were right in the thick of things. We're getting like 800 people on our Saturday Night Lives.
That was fun, man.
When we go live. And I have a feeling 2020 is going to be huge. I'm hoping to get to about 10,000 followers by August or whatever. We'll see how the growth rate hits us, but, man, let's get into the 1,000 range per live when we're live during the season on Saturdays.
That'll be fun.
That's my goal, is to get into the 1,000. So we hit 800 a couple times, 700. It's weird doing off-season lives right now, and we're like in the 20s. Like it's an odd feeling.
Even my page, like I went live the other night. It was like 120 for me. I'm like, oh,
yeah. You're like, should I go?
It peaked at like 200, and then it came down to like 180, and then 120, and I was like, okay. And then regular season, man, it was
yeah, dude. You were like in the 4,000 or something. I thought one time when I went in, but
yeah.
So let's get into the 1,000 range. Let's do it good in 2020. But maybe you'll come back. Maybe Saturday night we'll do a rookie.
Let's do a rookie thing. With this week, like I said, this week's the combine. It'd be cool to do something like that.
Yeah. All right, man. Appreciate you.
Yeah, no problem.
Say bye to Dr. Raj, everyone.
Take it easy. I'm gonna go live. I'm gonna go talk to some helmets.
Yeah. And let's go live on IG sometime soon.
Yeah, we gotta do that.
All right, man. Later.
I'm a man. Later.
Raj out. Appreciate Dr. Raj stopping by. Appreciate all of you. And I'm just kidding. I don't care if there's 23. I don't care if there's 5. You guys are all worth going live for. And we're going to have a big year. I can't wait for 2020. It's going to be massively crazy, insane, off the hook. The chat's going to be like this the entire time. So get ready. It's going to be off the hook. I expect a lot more Dynasty content to hit you shortly, maybe even today or tomorrow. I might toss up an interview I did with a few other fantasy football experts in the Instagram world, and I might post that interview. It was a pretty good interview. I just went on their podcast and talked a lot about different things. We did a first-round mock draft. We did like a top 12 overall or top 14 overall picks or something like that. I got 3 of the draft slots, and we just talked about each player as we took them. So it's kind of good content. It's video, so you should be able to watch the whole thing in its entirety. And I think I'll post that for tomorrow. That might be the video I put for tomorrow. What's up, big dog? All right, Larry, Jedi, Jake, MT, Paul, hit the thumbs up on your way out. Roger, if you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe on your way out the door. I'll go live hopefully a couple times this week. Anybody have any final questions? Hit me with it. I'll give you 4 more questions. We'll cue the music. Of course, the super chat will restart the music as always. We're on the way out. Mock draft sites are a joke right now. Roger says, Roger, that's why I didn't mock draft right now. You asked me to mock draft, or a couple of you asked me to mock draft. And I'm like, I'm just not going to mock draft with no freaking updated pre-rank list. It makes the mock draft worthless. I'd rather mock draft for you or do rankings on screen, something productive, something you can take home and use. That's what I'd rather do. So, Amari not going anywhere, says Jake. You could be right. And I think earmuffs, Jake, if you're an Amari lover. But Gallup, I think, will be the number one wide receiver in 2020 in Dallas no matter what. Okay, Jake, take those earmuffs off. Wipe your feet on the way out, says Paul. Hit the forums at sleeperu.com, says Larry. That's right here, sleeperu.com. Forums. Hit Larry up. Ask him a question. Tag him in a forum post and say, Larry, I saw you on the Fantasy Football Show and I have a question for you. Larry will help you. He's been a forum moderator for, God, how many years, Larry? He's been one of my right-hand men at sleeperu.com for I don't know how many years. Tell me, Larry, I totally don't even know. Roger, yeah, I don't get fantasy is a billion-dollar industry. Why they are updated? Why aren't they updated? Oh, the mock draft pre-rank list. Yeah, it's crazy. Crazy! MT or D Hopkins 2020 MT, baby. Top 6 to 7 overall. Easy for me. Top 5 to 7, I guess you could put him at. And then Hopkins is like 7 to 8. So they're neck and neck. But MT, 140 plus receptions is crazy. All right, guys. I appreciate all of you. Later. Subscribe, follow. Tell your friends at the water cooler. And if you don't want to share it with your close buddies in your league, you could at least go to the water cooler and tell Bill from accounting about the Fantasy Football Show because Bill needs the help.